Welcome to the deep dive.
Hello.
Today, we're tackling something, well, pretty fundamental if you're serious about understanding and speaking English, particularly in a British context.
British culture.
Exactly. We're not just skimming the surface of grammar rules. We're plunging into the world that, shapes the language itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Our sources today really underscore a vital point. Language doesn't exist in a vacuum, does it?
Not at all.
To truly grasp British English, to navigate conversations smoothly and sort of connect authentically, you really need to understand the cultural landscape.
Think about it.
Yeah.
You could have all the vocabulary right there at your fingertips.
Mhm.
But if you misinterpret a phrase that seems polite, or maybe you miss the joke with some British humor,
Yeah.
you might find yourself, well, unintentionally creating a bit of distance.
That's right.
So this deep dive is specifically for you, the listener, aiming to go beyond just rote memorization.
It's about unlocking a richer, more intuitive understanding of communication, really.
And that's our mission today, isn't it? Based on the material we've looked at.
Yeah. We want to pull out those essential cultural insights that will directly help your English learning journey,
Make it more effective.
and hopefully more enjoyable too.
Mhm.
It's about getting a feel for the underlying currents of how British people communicate.
Okay, let's dive in. One of the big ones, politeness.
Yeah.
And sometimes what feels like really indirect communication.
Oh, definitely. The material we have really emphasizes how central this is.
So what does that look like in practice?
Well, there's a strong cultural, maybe tendency towards avoiding direct confrontation. Showing consideration for others' feelings is key.
Right.
And this often comes out in language through, indirect phrasing.
So instead of just saying you're wrong,
Exactly. You might hear something like, I'm not entirely sure that's quite right. Or perhaps we could look at it another way.
much softer.
And where someone from another culture might just say, do this, a British speaker is, well, much more likely to say, would you mind terribly? Or could I possibly ask you to?
It's almost like there's this extra layer you need to decode sometimes.
It can feel like that, yeah. Especially if you're used to more directness.
But understanding that value placed on politeness, it can really change how your interactions go, can't it?
Absolutely. It helps
Yep.
prevent misunderstandings and helps you phrase things, more appropriately in that context.
It avoids causing offense, even unintentionally.
And it's interesting, this indirectness might have roots way back, maybe Victorian times, that emphasis on social harmony.
Ah, okay, so it's quite deep-seated.
It seems so. Understanding that helps explain why certain ways of speaking are just preferred.
Right, okay. So politeness and indirectness, check. Now let's brace ourselves for another classic. British humor and sarcasm.
Ah, yes, the famous British wit.
It often leaves learners scratching their heads, I imagine.
It certainly can. The information we have suggests it's often very dry, ironic, and yeah, involves a fair bit of sarcasm,
High meaning.
delivered with a very straight face.
Yeah.
Like, a key feature is making jokes while appearing completely serious, which can definitely catch people off guard if they're not familiar with it.
I can just see it now. Someone says something totally sarcastic, deadpan,
Uh-huh.
and the learner takes it complete literally.
Yeah,
Recipe for awkwardness.
it can be. But, as our sources point out, actually getting a handle on this type of humor is a fantastic way to build rapport.
To feel more included.
Exactly. To feel more included in social settings. It shows you sort of get it.
Humor is like a social glue everywhere, I suppose.
It is. But in Britain, this dry, often self-deprecating style is particularly, common.
It's deprecating too. That's interesting.
Yeah, making fun of oneself or one's own situation, learning to spot the cues, the tone of voice, maybe even join in a little, can really boost your social interactions.
Okay, so we've navigated politeness, tiptoed through sarcasm. Let's move to something seemingly simple but culturally huge. Tea.
Tea. Yes. The material highlights that tea in the UK is, well, it's way more than just a hot drink.
It's symbolic, right?
Hugely. A powerful symbol of comfort, hospitality, social connection. The simple act of offering someone tea, would you like a cuppa? It carries a lot of weight.
A cuppa. Got it.
It's often the very first gesture of welcome or care when someone visits your home.
And it's not always just a quick mug, is it? There's this afternoon tea thing mentioned too.
Oh, yes. Afternoon tea is a whole different level.
Sounds quite fancy. Cakes, sandwiches.
It is, often served on tiered stands. It really shows how tea can be a whole social ritual, a light meal in itself.
So understanding these little everyday customs like offering or accepting tea.
And maybe knowing about afternoon tea,
Yeah.
it really helps you feel more comfortable in British homes, in social situations. It boosts your confidence.
Right. Small things, big impact. Now, it's really important we don't paint Britain with one single brush, isn't it?
Absolutely crucial. The information we're working with strongly emphasizes the country's diversity. Its modern identity is very varied.
So contemporary Britain is.
Incredibly multicultural, especially in the cities. You find vibrant communities and influences from all over the world: India, Pakistan, Africa, the Caribbean, Eastern Europe, the Middle East, so many places.
So when we say British culture, it's not some fixed thing from the past.
Not at all. It's dynamic. It's constantly being shaped and reshaped by all these diverse influences.
And that's a really positive message for you as a learner, I think,
Definitely. It means there isn't just one single way to be British.
which hopefully makes it feel more welcoming, more inclusive.
Exactly. It's not about conforming to some narrow stereotype you might have seen. It's much richer than that.
Okay. And related to that, our sources also touch upon core British values. This sounds like a useful framework,
Yes, these underlying values, they do inform quite a lot of behavior in British society.
such as.
Well, material points to things like fairness, a sense of playing by the rules, maybe queuing properly.
Ah, the famous cues.
Indeed. Also, tolerance, respect for freedom of speech, but also a strong sense of privacy.
Hmm.
People tend to value their personal space and information.
Okay.
And then there's the well-known stiff upper lip.
Meaning keeping emotions in check.
Yeah, particularly in public. A degree of emotional restraint, though that's perhaps changing a bit now.
You can sort of see how these values might play out day to day, can't you? In conversations, at work, maybe even in education.
You can. And for learners, just being aware of these sort of foundational values can really help in adapting.
Adapting to different social settings, professional environments.
Right. Recognizing them helps you maybe anticipate how people might react or behave and adjust your own approach. It explains some of the unspoken rules.
Okay. Now let's shift gears a bit to something very audible for learners. Accents.
The wonderfully varied soundscape of British accents. It's incredible, really.
Our sources make it clear there's huge variety.
Tremendous range. Someone from Liverpool sounds completely different from someone in London or Glasgow or Newcastle or Cardiff.
It must be quite a shock compared to the BBC English or received pronunciation that many learners expect.
It can be, yeah. RP is actually spoken by a pretty small percentage of the population.
So the reality on the ground is much more diverse.
Much more. And that's why the material we're looking at really stresses how important it is for you to expose yourself to lots of different British accents.
Why is that so critical?
For your listening comprehension, it's absolutely vital. It helps you understand English as it's actually spoken day to day, not just in a textbook or a specific news broadcast.
Makes sense. Get used to the variety. Okay, another area with its own jargon, the education system.
Yes, the British education system definitely has its own specific terms. Knowing them is really helpful.
Like what, for example?
Well, you hear about A-levels and GCSEs, those are major school exams.
Right.
Then there's the slightly confusing term public school,
Which actually means?
a private fee-paying school,
Right.
often very old and traditional ones. It's the opposite of what you might think.
Okay, good one to know.
And of course, Oxbridge.
Ah, the shorthand for Oxford and Cambridge University.
Exactly. Famous, prestigious institutions.
It's like needing a mini dictionary just for education terms.
Almost. And the sources suggest a good way for you to learn about this is through, say, watching British documentaries about schools or student life.
Or student vlogs on YouTube,
Right?
university videos.
Precisely. That kind of authentic content gives you the context for these terms and shows you a bit of the educational culture.
Right. Moving on, traditions and social norms. Our sources highlight how knowing about these helps you join in conversations.
Definitely. These traditions are woven into the fabric of social life.
So knowing about big events.
Yeah, things like Christmas with its specific traditions like Christmas crackers, pudding, maybe the King's speech, or Guy Fawkes Night on November 5th with fireworks and bonfires. Remembrance Day honoring veterans.
Bank holidays, too.
Yes, the various public holidays, bank holidays, and even seemingly smaller things like Pancake Day.
Shrove Tuesday, right? Before Lent? That's the one. Eating pancakes. If you understand these traditions, you can understand when people refer to them.
And you can maybe share your own experiences or ask questions. It's a connection point.
Exactly. It goes beyond just knowing vocabulary. It's about understanding shared cultural moments, The customs, the food, the phrases people use.
Helps you connect on a deeper level, feel more involved.
Absolutely.
Now we have to talk about stereotypes. They exist for every culture, right?
I do. And the information we've reviewed does a good job trying to offer a more nuanced picture than the common myths about British people.
Good. So what myths are we talking about?
Well, the idea that everyone loves tea, for example. Many do, but not all.
Okay.
Or that it's always raining. It does rain, but maybe not constantly.
Yeah, fair enough.
And the idea that everyone speaks with that posh accent, received pronunciation, we already said that's actually quite rare.
Right. What about the personality stereotype? Reserved, maybe unfriendly.
Yeah, that's a big one. The sources suggest that while there might be an initial reserve, people are generally warm and often very humorous once you get past that surface level.
So reserved doesn't necessarily mean cold or unwelcoming.
Exactly. It's an important distinction. Understanding that can stop you from misinterpreting interactions.
And pubs, they're not just about drinking.
No, the material rightly points out their huge role as social hubs, community centers, places to eat, meet friends, watch sports. Much more than just bars.
So getting past the caricatures, friendly, but maybe valuing privacy, funny, but sometimes subtly.
Understanding that more complex reality helps bridge gaps, doesn't it? Reduces confusion or that feeling of distance.
Definitely. Okay, finally, let's talk practical steps. How can listeners actively explore British culture?
Yeah, immersion is key, even from afar. The sources offer some great suggestions.
Like watching British TV and films.
Absolutely. Loads of great options mentioned, like The Crown, Doctor Who, Sherlock, The Great British Bake Off, things that show different aspects of life and humor.
What about reading?
Reading British newspapers or magazines, The Guardian, BBC News Online. The Independent gives you current affairs in different perspectives.
And listening. Podcasts, radio.
Definitely. BBC Radio 4 is a classic for spoken word. There are tons of podcasts, like The English We Speak from the BBC, focusing on language.
Following British YouTubers or influencers could give a more casual view, too.
Yes, or engaging in online forums, like specific subreddits on Reddit, or core threads about the UK, asking questions, reading discussions.
And if possible.
Well, obviously, traveling to the UK is fantastic, but even virtual tours online can give you a bit of a feel for places.
Lots of the ways to engage them.
Plenty.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it really feels clear that understanding British culture isn't just like an optional extra for learning English.
No, it's integral. Especially if your goal involves communicating effectively in a British context. It's pretty essential.
It leads to smoother communication.
A more enjoyable learning experience, definitely. And building more meaningful connections with people.
You start to get a deeper sense of how people think, maybe how they joke, what they value.
What topics might be a bit sensitive or private?
And the practical results.
Well, hopefully, improved listening skills because you're used to more accents and styles, more natural-sounding speaking yourself.
And fewer misunderstandings or awkward moments.
That's the goal. Fewer cultural tripwires.
So as you, the listener, continue on your English journey, maybe the thing to reflect on is this. How will embracing this cultural understanding do more than just improve your English skills?
Yeah, how will it actually enrich your whole experience of the language and perhaps your understanding of the people who speak it?
It's about connecting with more than just words, isn't it?
It really is. It's about connecting with a whole way of life.